Oh my gosh, I'm sitting in front of my dear friend from way back when. Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good. Oh my gosh, like you and I have known each other for some time,
I
and I'm
know.
just so grateful to you for coming on this show because like you and I we've been friends since the early 2000s back in San
Yeah, hard
Diego.
to believe. Yes.
um Partying days, girls trips, you were at our wedding.
Mhm.
My 40th birthday, all the good things. And like we've always been connected. And I just like, you never know what people are going through. And I didn't know back at one point you were going through some fertility challenges. I'd already gone through my fertility path and we reconnected and just like, we're here today to highlight you, share your story, and you bring so much light and heart. And I know you're going to impact like a lot of people listening. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I hope so because it can be a long journey, and it can be a
Mm.
lonely one too. So I have been very blessed to have you in my life for a very long time prior to you even starting your podcast and your
Yeah.
business. So I'm so happy to be here and I hope that, I can help whoever is listening.
Yeah. Um, I want to let you kind of open up and share wherever you'd like to begin. You have a unique story in that you wanted to be a mom, I believe, for a while, and at one point decided to freeze your eggs. So maybe we should begin there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yes. So, gosh, yeah, I was single. I was single until I was 39 years old. So everyone who may be listening could be on their dating path, and that's quite a path in itself.
Mm.
And I had, up until about 35, I didn't think really anything of it. It was like if I meet someone, great. And then at that point, I started to actually make decisions in my career too, based on being able to have the opportunity to freeze my eggs. So I was 38 when I decided and had the blessing to be able to have, resources to be able to freeze my eggs.
Mm.
And so I did that when I was 38. Luckily, I, lucked out in that, they had found so many follicles. And again, I don't know where anyone is at in their, path here. But,
Yeah.
you find out how many follicles you have, and then they decide, your treatment. So I ended up in my first round getting 6 eggs. And then shortly after, I did another and got 9. So I had 15 eggs when I was
Okay.
38. Um, was very grateful for that because at that point I was like, well, maybe I'll use them someday, maybe I won't, but now I have this
Mm.
opportunity. I'd read about it and was like, this probably is for me. So fast forward, I ended up meeting my partner, my significant other, when I was 39, and he and I dated for a while, and then probably about like year 3, I decided to do another round of IVF. We were considering, starting to build a family, though that was kind of up in the air as well. So now I'm 42 at that point. I had another opportunity, had the resources to be able to go through another round. And, please stop me if this is,
Yeah, no,
too long. I just,
no.
it definitely, will make sense towards the end. So anyways, I was able to go through another round of IVF. And at that point I had gotten 5, I don't want to say only, I got
Mm.
5 eggs. We were able to actually successfully have blastocysts on 3 embryos that fertilized.
Mm.
We did genetic testing on those, and those embryos came back as one healthy, normal embryo. So at that point, we were so happy, and we weren't really quite ready to move forward yet. But I knew I had that embryo, plus I had my eggs. So my boyfriend and I, at the time, kind of went through the journey of timing. We had just really met each other only a couple of years prior. And then we finally came to the decision like, okay, we want to start actually like using, one of the eggs. Now, excuse me, embryo. We hadn't created the embryos of my frozen eggs when I was 38. So we ended up when I was 44, um, decided to move forward with a transfer.
Mm-hmm.
So we did the embryo transfer. That's when you and I connected a little bit more deeply during that time. We
Mm-hmm.
did the transfer and it was successful. And we were so grateful. Um, and then we got to week 10 and we couldn't find a heartbeat, which, to anyone that may be listening, going through miscarriage is a
Mhm.
journey in and of itself. And so at that time, we only had that one embryo. And so turns out I was able to find out that that embryo actually had a chromosomal abnormality that was not did not have the ability to be tested 3 years prior. So talk about modern science being able to come so far to test for so many things. It's never fully guaranteed.
You did do
And
genetic testing,
I
right?
did.
But they
I
didn't
did.
pick up that
Yep.
quote
And
abnormality or whatever. Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Okay.
I was trying to find my paperwork because I couldn't find the chromosomal abnormality that is now being able to be detected. So when you do PGTA, now
Mm-hmm.
it's like PGTA plus, and that actually includes the abnormality that my embryo had.
Interesting. Okay.
But 3 years prior, it was undetected.
Wow. Wow.
So to them, to everyone at that time, it was actually a very big thing in my clinic and in the testing facility that's escaping me right now. The name of it is it's a big, testing facility.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it turns out the, which we called it, the embryo, our little cherry,
Yeah.
wouldn't have survived, because it did have that abnormality. And so that was a whole, that in itself was a healing
Yeah.
journey. And so, for your body, for your emotions and everything
Mm-hmm.
else. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was in May of 2024. I had the miscarriage. And then in August is when we decided to move forward with fertilizing my frozen eggs. And so again, that's when you and I connected. And
Yeah.
a big part of that story is, that would be my last chance, right? At that point, like it would have been, I wasn't going to go through another round for, retrieving eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent weeks in August and it ended up being extended by another week. It was just so,
All
I
the
think you and I
delays, all the
talked about that. There were
setbacks.
so many delays, all the
Mm-hmm.
setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to do multiple testing on the embryos that they made because of everything that had happened to the prior transfer. So fast forward, I went to, and this is probably a relevant piece for people to hear. I think we went to like 7 days blastocyst, or
Mm.
6 or 7 days, which one would hear 3 days, 5 days. And after that, I was like, oh my goodness. They told me your eggs weren't ideal in terms of health. Yeah, they were like, it wasn't, the ideal. And I was so nervous during that time. And I say that only because I got so nervous that it wouldn't be viable because I never heard anything beyond 5 days,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, for anyone listening, you'll learn all about what that means. And so I just kept saying and, kind of sending good energy, which, we can kind of get into a little later. And we had 3 embryos that were being tested, and one came back normal. And that ended up, we did the transfer it was November 4th of 2024. the
Mm-hmm.
the year is just like I feel like I'm operating in 3 years right now. So yeah, 2024, the
Yeah.
November, and then I had my daughter in July of last year. So she's 6 months right now. So that's
Mm.
my long story long,
Yeah.
condensing a fertility journey that kind of spanned multiple years.
Gosh. Thank you for highlighting your journey. I mean, and you said those 15 frozen eggs,
Hmm.
and out of those, you got one embryo, correct?
I got one embryo, one
And that's
healthy embryo,
one healthy
one
embryo
healthy
making your
embryo.
daughter,
Yeah,
your little
yeah.
pumpkin. Oh my gosh.
My little
And
pumpkin.
she's 6 months old now.
Hmm.
And wow, I just walking alongside you. And in 2024, you were part of the Moon Magic manifestation calls. I know, just like being a part of your journey, like each step of the way, and the hope that you carried forward, obvious devastation with your loss. But like, I'm just so honored that I got to walk alongside you because this is truly like a life changing journey.
It really is. It's not for the faint of heart. Anyone going through this type of journey and then becoming a mother in itself is a whole
Yeah.
nother,
Oh, yeah. I know you're going through
step of,
all of it.
all those processes. But Actually, you brought up Moon Magic, which was such a great group that I got to be a part of. I've made friends from there. Um, it actually, I was thinking about it, it started beyond that. I remember when I was doing my second round of egg freezing, I called you. And this is prior to you really starting on your journey of,
Mm,
helping so many other people prior to you writing your book. And I remember Olivia was little,
mm,
and your mom was sick. And I remember speaking to you, and it was just so generous for you to give your time and that emotional space for me because I was so nervous in my second round. Because there's a lot of medicine that, you take and you're nervous, like, what does this do to my body? And it all feels so foreign. And I remember you saying to me, whenever this is kind of weird, I have the chills. This is where you talked
aw,
about like the energy. And I remember, you saying like, don't try not to think about it as these shots and medicine and really think about like the energy that's, going to bring hopeful life and potential and hope, And so whenever you're doing it, just say like, this is hope, this is good, this is, just like
yeah.
really getting the energy around that. And honestly, that helped solidify my decision to do a second round and feeling really comfortable. I was single. I was doing the shots by myself in my room. It's like all these things that you do, on your own. If there's someone out there right now doing that on your own, it's possible, but it is like scary. And so, anyways, it
Thank you for
started
that.
even before the Moon Magic, group.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, it started then, but just the group in itself, was really came to me at such a great time in my life. And you
Mm,
did it monthly, I think it was.
mhm, mhm,
And you had so many amazing guests on that
mm,
just, you otherwise wouldn't maybe have come across, like
mhm,
just the types of, services and people that are out there that one may want to explore, on your healing path or, whatever the case may be. There, I think you've had your doctor on before. It just,
mm,
there were so many people that you brought on, in those
mm.
groups. And yeah, like I ended up becoming a little less lonely during that process.
Yeah.
And that was during the time I had the miscarriage as well. So it was really great to have people that could really understand what you were
Uh,
going through because not everyone, walks that path.
thank you, Dana. Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. And that idea of injecting hope, love, possibility, like it's part of the process. We know don't use the word have to, but we get to do these
Get
shots,
to?
but it's like
Hmm.
looking at it from a place of, okay, like I am infusing my body with like this is one step closer to becoming a mom, but it's
Hmm.
part of the
Hmm.
process. And you really
Hmm.
embrace that um that idea of energy and share a little bit about also your thoughts and what some of your fears were because you and I talked about that. If you're open to
Hmm.
sharing like with your friend and
Yeah.
that was also playing in your mind. So it's helpful to kind of like examine what is the narrative that we're leading this journey with
Hmm.
and just noticing, right? Becoming aware and
Yeah.
honoring those feelings, not discounting them, but like that was a part of what you worked through too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely, it is a journey, right? Because even just getting pregnant,
Mm,
it really transforms so many aspects of your life, but physically, what could happen in those situations. And, um, we had our own birth stories, but yeah, one of the fears that I carried with me for a while, one of my friends, when we were in our early 30s, had a baby and ended up being in septic, like shock because of retained placenta. And
mm,
that, can be very dangerous. And she ended up having to have a hysterectomy and 8 days after she gave birth to her daughter, her second daughter, and she went in for the hysterectomy and unfortunately passed away. Never came out because um, I think it was a blood clot. I won't get the exact, specifics, but
mhm,
that surgery is what took her life. And so for my group of friends, having children was something that we carried that with us. I wasn't even the only one. My friends who didn't even have a fertility journey, just going through that, knowing, wow, this could happen to
yeah,
you, and
yeah,
that was something that was just very scary, because it's just, we lost her so young and, her kids didn't have a mom. So it's like,
mm,
there's just so much energy that you carry with you, and so many emotions.
mm,
And to be able to take a step back and relook at how to approach your own fertility or any journey for that matter, going into something and having
Mm-hmm.
a different mindset and having to really build a different pathway in your brain to think about in order to safely, and emotionally, get through,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what would become then my fertility journey. So I carried a lot of that with me. And, I tend to I don't like, we talk about this a lot too, saying like, I run on anxious. I don't really like to say that like it's a badge of honor, but it's just something that my energy is always very high. And, I
Yeah.
think it's just anyone that may have anxiety may know what that feels like, where you're very concerned, and
Yeah.
that was something I didn't really want to take with me. And that's
Yeah.
where coming to this group really helped me too. And then ultimately, you and I had a lot of sessions, we had a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of sessions. I lost count,
Oh.
but it really helped me get into a place of softness, which is what I really needed
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, really start that journey, to motherhood, which ended up, being what I am doing right now. So, yeah,
Oh.
I know I kind of went on a tangent a little bit, but
No,
that was
no.
just things I carried sort of with me um, that you really, the team or, the group really helped with.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad it was so supportive for you. And, you mentioned about kind of being high strung or anxious. And I know the work you do, it's like high tech. You're an ambitious woman. A lot of women on this path are, right? And so it's being open to a new approach to paying attention to how our body's feeling and like creating a almost like calmer environment within. It really starts from
Mm-hmm.
within. And
Mm-hmm.
you were so open to that, but like it was working through that together and visualizing that this was all possible for you. Um, that it was worth pursuing and like that optimistically realistic. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, that's something I like to use because it's like some people say like, "Oh, don't be pessimistic." It's like I'm not really being pessimistic. I think we're being they'd love to inject
Yeah.
optimism into life, but sometimes there's a realism as well, and so being able though to put yourself in a position to dream and
Yeah.
to believe, and to like visualize that. And, that to me is, and I had read your book prior to you even having your group,
Mm.
and just, I know you gifted it to me after Little Cherry as well. And I think that you talk a lot about that even in your book, just about doing things that are creative and getting out of the space. Yeah, you mentioned just in my my full-time role, I am in a high performing position, and I work in technology, and it is a different side of me that I had to really tap into, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to go through that process really allowed me to step out of what my life had been for so long, right? And
Mm-hmm.
really, I loved being pregnant.
Me
And
too.
I know there's like a journey, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
getting to that phase. So I respect like how long it takes because I went through it, and I was very, very lucky to be able to go through full term of a pregnancy. I don't take that for granted
Mm-hmm.
um, any
Mm-hmm.
day or by any means, but during that time, I just loved it, because I think the work going into it allowed me to be softer with myself, my
Mm-hmm.
walks that I would do. And, I wrote a note, to her. We knew it was going to be a girl. And I took that with me. And every time I went and got a sonogram, I'd take that with me. Like it was like I was bringing her, even though she was already with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
to like every appointment. And that really, leading up to that, there was a lot of dreaming and what could it be and not living in, will this happen to me again? Actually, one of the calls we did in August of the year that after my miscarriage, when we were
Mm-hmm.
when we were, wait in the waiting season of what would this look like? Do we have embryos or not?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember having a call with you, and it really was probably like my favorite call we did actually because it allowed me to really be present. And we walked through some exercises even on the call, and my boyfriend and I took that with us. Like every morning and every night, we would send good energy to the three embryos that were in testing. And I got to the point at the end of waiting, the day of actually that we found out that we had one healthy embryo. I just reached a sense of peace along that journey that, by going through the work and understanding what does my life look like as my best version of myself with or without a child, and making sure we realize life is just, we get one shot at this, and we should
Yeah.
be able to live in the now of what we could do. So I tried to do something, creative. And, by the time we got to the end, I really was like, if it is something that doesn't happen, I have this great life. I have such a great partner in life. And I'm so grateful just for that. I have an amazing job, an amazing family, friends. It will just look different. It will
Yeah.
just look different. And, the other side was we try this again, and I have the opportunity to do that and I get to try again. And, I was very lucky to, find that out and, be able to pursue that. But I think that by going through and having those moments of softness to
Mm.
be able to reflect and give myself time to say, what does life look like? We spend so much time in these going to the doctor's appointments, making sure you do your medicine on time. Like everything is just like so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's up to us to like put ourselves in a better mindset,
Yeah.
because otherwise it could really take over so much of your life if you don't allow yourself the time to step back and really appreciate what you do have in the present.
Mm. What you're sharing is so important because it's like you realized I have this fulfilling full life with or without a child. I'm moving forward optimistically. I felt a peace within my body. Like, isn't that what we all kind
Mhm.
of want? Like to feel
Yeah.
just feel feel a sense of, like you said, softness. And I appreciate you sharing that so much. It's like,
Yeah, because I think a lot of times people too, we always say, you know, or we always want for our friends or family or kids, whatever it is, like to be happy, to be happy. And happy is an emotion, right? Peace is like a way of being. And I
mm-hmm,
think that a lot of times I strive for more peace in my life because that's something that, regardless of what's happening, you can get to that point because there's so
mm-hmm,
many stressors in life. Parents being sick, waiting for doctor results. I mean, just us as people, regardless of
mm-hmm,
going through a fertility challenge, not knowing what your work situation is going to be like.
mm-hmm,
And so happy, sad is something that's up and down, but peace is something that you eventually can get to. It's like a state of mind, I think. And it's something I feel like I'm always a work in progress, when it comes to
mm-hmm.
that, because it's hard. It's hard to do because that really makes you live in the present moment.
Think you shared with me you got to a place of like really deep surrender too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was something, in our calls too, we talked about that. It's just I had to get to a point where I had to be, go through and being present though, I think allows you to get to that point of surrender because there is no other time but right now, right?
Yeah,
So it's like you either, can and it's a practice. It really is a
it is.
practice. It's not something we're always so used to planning and, and in the time that I actually was able to get pregnant and through my pregnancy was something I leaned into so much that by the time I had the baby, like half the nursery wasn't done. Like there were so many things that weren't done, but I kept saying, like, it's okay. Like it's going to be fine. We're here right now. I'm healthy. The baby's healthy. Like the room will get done. Sure.
Yeah.
Like it'll be great on Instagram, but like in real life, like it's us being able to be happy and being able to support each other was like the most important thing. But yeah, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
surrendering is something that I think eventually came because it, I'm trying to think of how to put it because I don't like to say like, oh, it's a stressful process, right? Because it's not, but there is a lot of, can be worry going into each appointment,
Uncertainty. Mm-hmm.
uncertainty of what would
Mm-hmm.
happen. And, every appointment was like that. And it's like, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to see, her hands today, or, we can't find her other hand. Every appointment has its thing. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
you telling me, when we were prepping for the transfer, even prior to the transfer, like that August appointment,
Yeah.
you were like, well, there's going to be stages, you're going to get through there. Then it's the waiting to find out, if you were able to reach, success and it, happening, or attaching, and then it's like getting to 12 weeks, and
Heartbeat.
then we're heartbeat, and
Yeah,
then we're
yeah.
getting
12
to,
weeks.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry, heartbeat, and
Yeah,
then getting
yeah,
to
yeah.
12 weeks, and then
Graduating to an OB clinic, right?
exactly graduating to the OB
Mhm.
clinic, 20 weeks, like this is a big appointment, and then it's this appointment. And so then I think you just become a mom, and then everything is the next thing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Oh, Dana.
but
I appreciate you just sharing like about living in the waiting and staying in that creative energy. I think you and your partner, you shared with me you were doing a painting class and like
oh,
keeping the magic like alive in
yeah,
this process. That's so key because it is such a clinical medical process. And that's something I really am passionate about. Like, let's bring joy, let's bring
yeah.
creativity, more magic, fun as we're in
I
the waiting,
know. It is,
right?
and it is, yeah, and it's hard, but I think it goes back to like, well, if this is my life, this is my life. Like this is what I
Mhm.
have right now. Yeah, we were in Raleigh actually at the time, and we were talked about like being creative, and you also talk about that in your book, and
Mhm.
what else, can we do? And I found one of those paint and sip. I obviously wasn't drinking at the time, but it's one of those classes that, you paint and the teacher helps you anyways. It was an elephant, and we both, him and I, did it, and it was so fun, and we were joked the whole time, and we ended up with both paintings, and I put three little hearts in the bottom corner. And when I was in Raleigh for Thanksgiving, I saw the paintings there because we'd ended up not bringing them back because of luggage and stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, one of those hearts is my daughter, because those were I made the
Yeah.
hearts as like the three embryos, like in the waiting, and it's just amazing
Mhm.
how, that comes full circle. But
Mhm.
yeah, we were able to do that. And um, and a couple of things I did, like I made a painting I always choose a word of the year.
Mm.
And ease was my word of that year. And I did the painting, in that prior year. And then the second year was Nourish, which was when I
Mhm.
had,
Mhm.
was last year. And so, yeah, just like bringing back like a little bit more, fun. I started listening to more podcasts and,
Mhm.
making sure I did my walks, not just to work out, but to really enjoy being outside in early mornings. I live in
Mhm.
Austin, so I feel like it's
Yeah.
over 90 degrees like throughout most of the year. So early morning walks, and so being able to like really enjoy the days. And we tried to really be intentional, my partner and I, with that
Yeah, you're in
throughout the
Austin.
process.
Talk about the journey too that your eggs, your
Oh
embryos,
gosh.
like
I know. I always think it's so funny because I was in Austin. I ended up having, my daughter here. I
yeah.
froze my eggs when went through the IVF round here. But when I was 38, I froze my eggs. I was in San Francisco. And when the eggs, where they store them, it's just like when you laugh
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah. You have to
they
keep it
were,
light.
you have to like keep like, some type of fun in it.
Yeah.
And those eggs were in Nevada, and then you have to like sign all this paperwork and get like a live notary to like transfer the eggs to like where you are. And I was like, okay, they've been in Vegas, like in Nevada, in Nevada, partying it up. We're waiting to now bring you down to Austin. It's just amazing when you think about that whole process. So I
Yeah.
had to like joke around and be like, okay, we're ready now.
Yeah.
But the eggs were living in
Mm.
Nevada for a while, but it's crazy like what that actually means just in general. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's so many, but when you really take a step back and you're like, wait, these eggs like were transported,
Yeah.
to another facility, then
Yeah.
re-frozen. Like, there's so much, like there
Mm.
could be so much risk. You really can't,
You're
well,
right.
anyone can do what they want, but I suggest not leaning into the what could happen,
What could
because
go
there
wrong?
are
It,
so
yeah.
many things that can go wrong.
Right.
And you think about that, and, there's day of, like what could happen, when you see,
Right.
you call it your dot, when you see a picture of that's my embryo. There's just so much that goes into it that
Yeah.
you have to like really lean into what's the positive, and you always say, when, you had and got pregnant, with Olivia, that you were like, just, what's the quote you use? Always think of something great can happen, or, oh,
Or always expect something wonderful to happen.
always expect something wonderful
Mm-hmm.
to happen. And, that's something that, we carried with us because it's so amazing, the process itself, if one can get to that point that we were lucky to get to. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just, all the things you think of and just, prepping and thinking about this podcast, there's so many steps along the way,
there are. And we have
you
a
know.
choice. We can lean into the fear or we can lean in more with the love.
Hmm.
And fears are a real thing. I know you went through them yourself, and there were things that
Hmm.
you had to navigate and advocate with your clinic and two different
Hmm.
clinics I think you dealt with. And I'll
Yeah.
let you share anything you want to on that. But it is so important to use your voice. That was something we talked through and through a
Yeah.
chakra reading and unlocking that throat space, right? And like really um speaking up
Yeah.
and not being hesitant because I believe we have to be active participants on this path, use our voice, and we are very much a part of this. We can't put all of our power in the doctors, I believe.
I totally agree. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that was, part of, even when I froze my eggs, when I did, at the clinic in San Francisco,
Yeah.
when they ended up, I think I had, I'm looking to my third eye. I think I had 12 follicles, right? That like got to a certain
Mm-hmm.
size, and I had gotten five. And I was like, what? Like no one, and you're coming out of anesthesia, and then it's a different doctor. And, you just feel like lost. Like, wait, I thought I was going to get more than that. And, then they up your meds. And, it's all these things. I'm like, why
Yeah.
didn't you do that to begin with? Like I'm 38 years old. This is what we saw, and, you know, I didn't know that was my first experience. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, in the clinic, and I definitely suggest, and this is beyond even fertility. This is like any doctor, right? Like we have to really advocate and say like, what does this mean? Like why are you doing it this way? What other, testing is out there? I only have
Mm-hmm.
one chance, I mean, after I had been miscarriage, I had one embryo. And I
Yeah.
remember going through my clinic and, some of the nurses are younger and,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45, and so at that point, that was, this was very different. And again, infertility, by the way, to anyone listening, can happen at any age. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
infertility path, you could be in your 20s and still, have a path that way. So I'm not
Yeah.
diminishing that whatsoever, but I remember,
Mm-hmm.
nurses not knowing like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to wait for the results. I'm trying to think of like exact examples, but the point is like a lot of times it was, they were telling me things. I'm like, no, that's not what we talked about. I need to make sure that, I think it was one of them was the embryo testing. Like I
Okay.
have to make sure that part of this is part of my insurance, when I go through, to make sure that I get the best testing possible on this. You
Mm-hmm.
told me it was covered. I want to make sure that this is, and I was on it every step of the way
Yeah.
because you really do need to advocate. I remember making sure when they do the embryo transfer, like you use the correct embryo, right? This is the one that you're, like I
Yeah. Yeah.
felt like you really do every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a surrendering to do, right? And there's this fine
Mm-hmm.
balance of what you're going through emotionally and then having to advocate for yourself because you need to work with insurance companies potentially and your medicine and
Yeah.
what procedures could give you the best odds, right, of being successful. Making
Yeah.
sure you do your research and ask about them because sometimes they're working with so many, you know,
Yeah.
they're working with so many clients and patients.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say you're just a number, but because you could have a really great relationship with your doctor, but they're working with so many people. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that they may not mention. They may not say, hey, there's a group out there that here's a podcast, here's an acupuncturist, here's a functional medicine doctor. There's
Mm-hmm.
all these things that you could actually leverage to have a successful transfer,
Yeah.
and that not everyone talks about. So it really is up to us
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ask questions. And yeah, we did I remember we did the chakra reading. We did that a couple of times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um,
Mhm.
and I, right now I'm not practicing yoga, but I would say I was someone who practiced yoga for a long time and,
Yeah.
going through the chakras and, my throat always ends up because, you feel like, can I speak up? And the throat chakra for me was always something that came up because it was, you're holding your fear and you're holding your
Yeah.
nervousness and all that stuff, and once you start to release that, it ended
Mhm.
up not being the chakra that came out like really strong in my last one,
I don't
because
forget. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was able to like speak up and that felt really good. It can be scary though.
Yeah.
And to anyone out there, ask the questions,
Yeah.
make sure you are advocating for yourself. If you want to learn more about a test, ask about it,
Thank you for speaking to
because
that. It's so
yeah.
important. And I just think that it's so relatable. Like everyone who's gone through clinics, like understands all the challenges. You often are communicating through a portal. You just want to talk to a human.
Yeah, and gosh, like the portals, like I get it. Like I know that that's like how it works, but yeah, you're always, and they're balancing a lot too,
Yeah.
right? Like they're
Yeah.
balancing so much, but you're like, I need this answer right now. I
Yeah.
also work full time. I have,
Yeah.
like, how can I just ask this one question? Like, where's
Mhm.
my medicine? What do I do for this shot if, it's past this time, or, like there's just so many logistics, and
And
yeah,
I'm
that's
smiling because you and I talked about this, and it's like, you could be, how do I say this? It's like we could be doing everyone's job, and that's not our job, right? We kind of laughed about that because it's like
yeah.
it can take a
I
full
like I
time
can't
job
do
to just like
everyone's job. Like this
manage.
is like I have a
I didn't
full-time
sign up for
job.
this.
Yeah. Because like I could, if you want me to, I will, but I got to get this done like fast. Yeah, I operate at high speed sometimes, but yeah, you're just like, this is not, I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that I need an answer. Like, and
Yeah.
that's not in my like job description. So like
Yeah.
someone please help me,
I think
Yeah.
one of the
'Cause
calls we talked about, like you included me on one of your emails to your clinic because like I was there for you, like on your behalf too, as
yeah.
an advocate. Like and I want to credit you. I think you titled me your mindset energetics
Yeah.
coach.
I was like, my energetics coach is CC'd on this, and I need to make sure I'm protecting my mental and my emotional health. And I know I was trying to think
Um,
of what it
so
was
sweet.
actually
You're so
in
sweet.
prepping. Yeah, because it
Yeah.
just, well, that's what
Or maybe it was
I,
how you wanted the environment or the room to be. Was it like maybe it was the room or like when
maybe
you
it
wanted
was
your
the room. I've been
transfer?
like trying to think about it. Oh, I think
Was it
that's what
like
it was. There
creating the
was
environment
a
you wanted?
nurse. There was a nurse
Oh, yes.
that's
Yes.
what it was.
Okay.
So
We don't have to go
again,
into detail about
and
it,
we
but
have to
okay.
go into
But
detail, but anyways,
yeah.
that's another thing but that's not what people realize, what they have a say in. If
Yeah.
there's something that's not comfortable, you
Yeah.
want, if you say, I want my doctor and I don't want this person or I want that person, like,
Yeah.
I want this to be like, I'll be listening to my music, or I ask the questions. If you feel like you're gonna feel better, doing something a certain way, say,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want. Let them tell you you can't do it. How do we know? Like there's certain things that, there may be things just because of cleanliness, whatever, they can allow certain things in a room. But yeah, you want to speak up to like the environment you want to be in,
Yeah.
because you're going in there with, I wrote another note to her that morning saying, I think we saged our whole house the night
Oh, yeah.
before. And we
Okay.
were like, this is going to be such a great space and we're going
Yeah.
to grow a baby. Like we were
Yeah.
really trying to get into a really good space. And, on the drive there, we listened to a song that we listened to with, our first pregnancy. And we were like, just
Mm.
watch over us. And, it
Oh,
was, you want to go in and make sure everything is okay for you as the
yeah.
patient. You're the one that gets to
Mm-hmm.
call the shots of like how I want to feel that day. And so
Mm-hmm.
ask, if you're curious, and this is to other people out there, because you don't know. You don't know,
Devil's
you have a
advocate. So,
choice to say, like, I want this person to be there. I really love this nurse. Is there a possibility
mhm.
for her to be in there? She makes me feel
Yeah.
really good, And so
Yeah.
ask your clinic. Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about that. And
Yeah.
just thinking back to, obviously this whole journey takes a team, a village, and
Yeah.
you had an acupuncturist. And I also think you'd mentioned to me one of the benefits was, I introduced you to some other supports. One was a functional
Yeah.
medicine doctor who apparently I didn't know you're still working with her, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So just like, speak to that. Like I think just for anyone who's maybe hesitant on being open to getting support on their path, like having a coach, having a guide. I mean, there are so many resources and opportunities to like meet new people, get support. Like,
Yeah.
what do you have to
Yeah.
say about that?
It just was, again, I think, a lot of people don't know that this is available out there.
Mm.
And luckily, I did acupuncture when I froze my eggs back in San Francisco as well. And I loved my acupuncturist there. I called her my girl. And so, I got through all of that. And so I had done acupuncture, and I have a really amazing acupuncturist in Austin. And so she actually focuses on fertility. And so I was very lucky. And, that was one part of my team. The functional medicine doctor, Sarah, I don't recall if she was on the podcast, I think.
I think I did an Instagram
Because
live with
she's,
her at one point, and
oh,
I
that's maybe that's what it
told
was.
her
Yeah,
about her
because
book. Yeah.
yeah, because she's in
Hmm.
Colorado,
Hmm.
and yeah, I was able to work with her, and I remember we talk about like you know, uh, doctors help you like get pregnant. I help you stay pregnant, and that was something that I
Hmm.
think she talked about with you, and that
Yeah.
really resonated with me. Just for someone in my age bracket and going through this, preeclampsia. There were a lot of things that I
Hmm.
wanted to make sure I avoided, and there's a lot of things you also don't know. You don't realize that, when you go through your first trimester, you are really sick. I was happy to be sick, by the way. I was so
Yeah.
happy until
Bring it on.
because the
I'll
second
take the
trimester,
swelling. I'll
yeah,
take
I'm
all.
like,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, give
Yeah.
me whatever I have to go
Yeah.
through. And I was
Yeah.
sick. But your body needs more carbs, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that I would be repulsed by I drank decaf, like decaf coffee or vegetables, which I eat. I was a pescatarian forever, I all I could eat was like I couldn't make eggs, like there were so many things though that, you want to make sure you're getting nutrition, but all I could think of was like bagels and
Mm.
crackers and things
Mm.
that, I would
The New
say
Yorker in you,
the New
right?
Yorker in me was like, "Ooh, I get to have a bagel every other day. I'm here for it." But yeah, I, didn't realize that, and she helped me through that journey. And so
Mm.
each trimester, if there was something that popped up that, I shared all my blood work with her, and things that doctors may not be aware of. Like one
Yeah.
example, I had a high uric acid number, and that is actually a pre. I don't give medical advice, by the way.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
just my experience.
Yes.
You know, high uric acid is something someone would see that has gout, right? And your uric acid when you're pregnant tends to go up, right? I don't know the numbers, but um, it can, though, eventually be a precursor to preeclampsia. And that was something
And
I
I had
learned.
preeclampsia at the end too. So I didn't know
Did
that.
you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so when
Mhm.
but your doctor, like they just say, oh, everything's regular. It's okay for that to be high. It's okay for that.
Mhm.
Again, ask questions because going to this and again, everyone may have their own philosophy on medicine, but going to like a functional medicine doctor to figure out what I could do, going to
Mhm.
Sarah really helped me. And in
Good.
my last weeks, I ended up, again, I had the resources to be able to get a massage like every week on my feet because my feet were so swollen. But all
Amazing.
these things were leading up to what preeclampsia could be. And
Hmm.
so by going to Sarah, I avoided preeclampsia until my till labor. And so I was able to eat like a ton of fruit. Like we just didn't calculate how much. I just was like all day,
Wow.
antioxidants, just
Mm.
making sure that I was doing that. And the number did not grow. In fact, it went down by like a 0.2% or something. Not to
Mm.
go into details, because again, I don't give medical
Hmm.
advice, but
Hmm.
that was something that I would have never known because the doctor wasn't telling me that, right? And so naturally, I was able to take vitamin C, things that were safe, but also that, you can make your own decisions on what you choose,
Hmm.
to do. But for me, that worked. And I avoided preeclampsia until labor. And, going through I still,
Yeah.
like you said, postpartum, I'm still working with her because I
Yeah.
have, some postpartum, things kind of going on. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so great because I always said like I did a post and I think I said like, oh, I had a whole team. I had Lisa, my energetics coach. I had Sarah, my functional medicine,
Yeah.
acupuncture. I
Yeah.
just feel like my fertility doctor, my regular doctor. I mean, there's so many people.
Yeah.
And I really didn't realize like how much I leaned into that. I was so happy for it.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
kind of, people can be scared to ask for help. I still am. But in that time, I was like,
Yeah.
I'll take it. The group of friends you told or whatever. It just
Oh,
really, really like makes a big difference
thank
having
you
a
for that,
team.
Dana.
Yeah.
Remind me
I was
too.
so thank you. I was so grateful
Oh,
to even learn about that. I wouldn't have even known
oh,
that was like an option. And I think, listening to your podcast, not that just we're friends, because obviously so
mm,
proud of you for having, your podcast and everything, but really like a lot of the people I follow now, that I heard on your podcast that really made a difference
oh,
in that season, right? So it's just
thank you
like
so much.
introducing me to people that otherwise I may not have even known existed and on this
Oh,
path.
thank you, Dana. Yeah, I really tune into those intuitive hits. And especially when I work with clients and have someone in mind that I'm like, oh, I need to connect you with this person, or
Yeah.
like that is something I feel like I'm grateful I bring to the table because, like, yeah, I am connected with all these different supports, and it's like we all bring something unique and different,
Right.
and we're not meant to do this alone. So,
Yeah.
like, I'm just grateful you were receptive and open and like, yeah, like if they can, if you think they can
Just
help me, like
whatever.
for sure, like I'll reach out and
Yeah.
do a consult.
Yeah. There was one
Um,
modality I didn't do that I look back and I'm like, I would have loved to have done it, but I didn't allow myself the time to find. I think it was this special form of like chiropractic work.
oh, the network spinal, maybe.
Yes, network
Yeah.
spinal. I ended up
Mhm.
not doing that, but I would have liked to have explored that.
Well, you
I
could
just didn't.
still, it could still support
Yeah.
you now. I mean, I actually do it for myself.
Do you? Oh, okay.
Yes,
Like
yes.
now. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nervous system regulation. It's
Ah, okay.
um yeah, we could talk about it.
Yeah,
It's
you could probably put that
crazy.
in your other episode
That
because I think you talked about,
I did do
yeah.
an episode with her with
Yes.
Dr. Shea, and then
Yeah.
spinal energetics is another
Hmm.
one that I've really dove into, and that's been life changing for me as well. So I
I
and I
love it.
practice all of these things that I talk about. I mean,
Oh,
that
yeah.
matters. That matters. Like I wouldn't be
Hmm.
praising somebody if I haven't experienced their work.
For sure. Oh, I
Um,
know oh, that made me feel comfortable too. Just because it's hard to
yeah,
find people out there, different again, doing different modalities of work.
yeah,
If you're not used to it,
yeah.
you're like, okay, someone I know that I trust went through this
Mm-hmm.
process. Let me see what it's about, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's, a benefit of being able to have a coach or listen
Yeah,
to a podcast, just knowing other
yeah.
people have gone through it is really helpful for sure.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about you know, for those who are listening and maybe just like whatever stage they're at, oftentimes feeling afraid to get too excited about this path and just like looking back to where you are now. Is there anything that's coming through of like what you would want to say to a woman who is just feeling like, I don't want to get my hopes up, or
Mm,
I'm afraid. I'm afraid to get too excited. I don't want to think about it. I want to get to it. Anything that comes to
yeah.
mind?
Yeah, it's a scary journey. I think, people need to honor that too, because, to be vulnerable to something like this is life-changing. I mean, truly, it will be life-changing if you're able to do it, life-changing if you're not able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to really trust ourselves, I want to be authentic in my response because I think that, you know, fear still exists. That's why, like, when we talk about emotions, I remember my therapist saying when I first started therapy,
Yeah.
and it was like months, like right when I met my partner, it was like the perfect timing to have got started therapy. I started way late in life. But I remember her saying, like, emotions, can be in the car with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can bring fear, you can bring happiness, you could bring sadness. Just don't let them drive the car.
Exactly.
Like, we drive that, and I think that, I kind of said it before, but I think we we live one life, and if it's something that you really, really want to call into your life, it's finding ways within yourself to like get through that. And, I know that there's probably someone listening feeling the same way. I've actually helped multiple people that I know,
Mm-hmm.
through just my own experience,
Mm-hmm.
whether they froze their eggs or they had a challenge with it, they were scared to do the shots, they were, all these things. And, lean on your friends, lean on your closest
Mm-hmm.
friends, right? And if you don't have a lot of friends, lean on your family or lean on
Yeah.
getting someone like Lisa or a therapist or something, because it really does help. Like, because not everyone understands what you're going through. And so that in itself makes everything you're feeling inside that much more overwhelming because you likely have a job, you likely have other responsibilities. And here you are saying, oh, I'm so scared. Will this work? Will it not? At the end of the day, we'll be saying that forever about everything. If we don't, it's never like, we always think about time. It's
Yeah.
never, it's never the right time to, I'm going to be ready to get a dog. I'm going to be ready to buy a house. I'm going to be, something else is going to happen. Someone may get sick. Someone may lose their job. And yeah, one has to really do the work inside to be able to
Yeah.
say, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're gonna wish we did more things than not, right? And so I feel like if you look back, you're like, wow, I'm really glad I tried and not wondered for the rest of my life. And that was one of the reasons why we moved forward. We were
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? If we have this one opportunity, this could be such an amazing thing for our life, and
Mhm.
what if we get to have that opportunity? And what if we don't, we don't. We will, find peace either way.
Yeah.
But we have this chance in 20 years, will we say, oh, what if we did that?
Yeah.
So it's thinking about not living in the what if,
Yeah. It's worth
right?
pursuing. This
It's
path is
worth
worth
pursuing.
pursuing. And I just want to also
It's scary, but it's worth
share
pursuing.
it
Yeah.
is. And
I
you,
hope that
someone
helps. I don't know if that answered your question, but
very, very, and I
yeah.
think someone very close to you and I, who was in the Our Moon group, the timing of both of you having your transfer on the very
Mhm.
same day and worked for you, it didn't work for her, right? The
No.
transfer. And it's like, it's so incredibly heartbreaking. And you both have found such a special connection. Like it
Mm.
makes me cry.
Oh, I'm literally have the chills again because it is a oh, I'll tell you when I was in labor, my partner and I talked about her and
Yeah.
her partner. And we're like, wow, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like how did that happen for us, but not for her? It's such a beautiful family. They're such a beautiful couple.
Yeah.
And yeah, it brings me to tears as well because she is such a gift in this world.
Yes.
Like honestly,
She,
like I met her in the Moon Group,
yeah.
and she is one of the nicest. I've
Yeah.
never met her in person. I was so grateful to have been brought to her through you. And when I tell you, we were leading up to everything and then finding that out, I mean, I was really unwell for a while, like thinking about it, because how does that happen to someone, that's so good and that should be in that position? And it was really, and when I tell you that this person checked on me multiple times during pregnancy, she was so sweet and just sent messages all the time. She sent me a gift. She sent us a gift. She sent my daughter like a gift. And
Mhm.
I mean, someone with a heart that big deserves only the greatest things.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it just, it could not happen. Right. And so that's, that's,
Yeah.
that's why when I say optimistically realistic,
Mhm.
sometimes there is a real like impact, like a real situation that comes from these decisions.
Mhm.
And I I hope we even on our transfer day, she sent me a message. I mean,
Wow.
it's just like the just the bravery and I don't even know the words to describe it. She's just so like
Yeah.
to have a heart that
Strength.
big, the
Strength.
strength to be able to get through that. And
Mhm.
literally, my boyfriend and I, we talk about them a lot. We
Mhm.
actually talk about them a lot because she should be in that space, and she's not. And I'm sure she has her own story, and I hope that one day she gets to tell that because she's so brave and she's so strong and so loving. And she's going to do great things in this
Yeah.
life because she
Yeah.
deserves it. But it is one of those, not to kind of belabor the point, but like in really reflecting, it's such a big step to take.
Yeah.
And I know that she was able to find joy in those moments,
Yeah.
and you just don't know what is ahead of you in those times. You have had a lot of people on your
Yeah.
podcast go through various,
Mhm.
stories like myself, and yeah, you don't know what's ahead of you and what could be brought to you in making those decisions. And I hope that if it's something that people want to call into their life, that they have the courage to fight through the fear, fight through the uncertainty, and get to a point where they feel at peace with the decision to move forward. Because you know I don't regret even my miscarriage. Going through that is not something I would want anyone to experience, but it
Yeah.
changes you, and these things will change you regardless of
Yeah.
the decision you get to make. And yeah, it's
Yeah. What we're talking about really is the human experience and the heartbreak and also the beauty.
mhm.
The beauty of friendship, the beauty of
Yeah,
connection, the selflessness that she, all of it. I think we experience
selflessness, that's the word.
a
Yeah.
range of emotions on this path, and all of us are taking a chance. Like We had
Yeah.
one healthy embryo. It's like
Yeah.
I look back and you and I, we have a very similar kind of birth stories,
Yeah.
and that's for another day to talk. But it's like I just think we're all doing the best we can, and I think just welcoming in that support, being open, trusting, and like bringing in as much kind of keeping that joy alive as much as possible. Like that's kind of like what I'm here to do. Like bringing
Yeah.
a light in an often very dark space, because this is not like a fun path that everyone's like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do
I know.
IVF,
Yes,
let's
this
go.
is exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah. I mean, I think that like, the idea of being vulnerable though is such a crazy concept. I remember going through that when I was dating and just like it applies to so many things, but to truly be vulnerable is to truly accept that your heart could break, right? At any moment. But it also means that you could experience like the greatest things you ever imagined in life
Yeah.
by letting yourself do it. That's the surrender. That's the risk. So one would take, or,
Yeah.
to be able to say, I'm going to try this. It may not have worked for 10 other people, but I'm going to try it,
Yeah.
and that's just being brave and being vulnerable. And it's not easy to be actually vulnerable. And that's why we all go to therapy and all do the things, because that is a
Mm-hmm.
very hard heartbreak is not a fun thing to go through, regardless of what the heartbreak is. Grief is not fun, right?
No.
Like, so we will face grief along our life that we are able to be living in this world, and it's again, it's like this one chance. I think about it a lot now because,
Yeah.
I am, at an age group where, you're just like, oh, my baby's only 6 months. I hope I'm here forever.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things where you really look and you're like, yeah, I can't take some of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
too seriously because
Mm-hmm.
she's looking at me like I'm the best thing that's ever
Yeah.
happened, and you want to take those things in and, you
Yeah.
know, and that could apply to anything. I think it's opened up another space for me to be thinking about, what other risks, what other things do I want to make sure I do in this life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we did this, and she's pretty awesome, or whatever, and you go through those things. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of more of a life lesson than it is just fertility. But it's just as you
Yeah.
have these conversations with, your friends or,
Mm-hmm.
or listening to this, it's like, what are the things that I want to do, because life is just like that.
Flip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Dana.
I know.
It's been such a
It
good
was so
conversation. Thank you
fun.
so much for like opening your heart
Yeah,
and just sharing your whole journey and what you've overcome, what you're navigating,
I
like, and
know.
your baby girls here and just seeing
Oh,
you as a mom. I'm like just so happy for you.
oh, thank you. And
Yeah.
everyone who's listening, Lisa and I are also friends. And when she sent my daughter a little gift, her and her daughter sent, my daughter, and she uses it every day as her little lovey. And it's just like such a fun, like, reminder again, like of friendship. Like I have been so lucky to have so many supportive people. And when you open yourself up to that, and find your tribe, find people that have been through this, or someone that you maybe not have been through this, but that you trust because
Mhm.
people really show up. Like people really show up in your life. And I was overwhelmed by the love and the generosity that people,
Mhm.
showed my partner and I.
Yeah.
It is beyond words. Like honestly, like saying thank you 1,000 times wouldn't do
Mhm.
enough of how many people showed up by text message, by messages, by gifts, by,
Mhm.
it's just, you know, you build a life and that's part of it and having so many great people in it. And yeah. So
Oh,
anyways, I'll go off on a
that's it.
tangent on
That's
that, but
it.
it's
I mean,
just, you're
well,
just so thankful. That's like,
yeah.
what is, at the end of the day, like it's trying to practice gratitude.
Mhm.
And I try to do that every day.
Mhm.
And I do not take it for granted. I was so lucky to be with my daughter because I have an amazing
Mhm.
career. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's been incredible. So
Mhm. We
thank
have so
you for
much
being a
ahead of
part
you.
of my life and
Oh, of course.
coming into, I'm so happy you did this, like truly, because I don't think I ever knew anything like that could exist, and I think that you've always been a person that believed in good energy and, journaled about things, really like calling these things into your life. We've been friends since, we lived in San Diego and kind of having those practices. I'm so
Yeah.
happy you used your gift to help other people see there's
Yeah.
like a different way to go about this path, because yeah, it's like you just don't
Mm,
know like what you're gonna face, and it's nice to have support along the way.
I'm
So
having
yeah.
flashbacks of our times in San Diego, and
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
I'll leave people with this, just like this idea. Okay, so
Oh gosh.
the peacock energy. I'm just
Okay,
gonna leave it with
yes.
that.
Okay. I'm like, we're just talking about our
Just
20s and our 30s here, going back into San
But
Diego.
no, it's like thank you. That's such a sweet
Mhm.
compliment. I mean, honestly, I never expected to ever step into this work. You know that. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how our life kind of does lead us down the path. I think I've always carried this mindset of like having fun wherever I go and being open to whoever I'm going to meet. We have had fun memories, Palm Springs and
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I think Yosemite.
We're like, it's
Never got to Yosemite.
karaoke. We're not. We're
Big,
singing with the band. Like,
we were
we're
the
here.
band.
We were the band. They loved us, though, by the way. It wasn't something we overtook the stage. We were one with the band. So
But
many
this,
fun memories. Yeah.
we'll just leave it. But the peacock energy, that was something that you and three of our other, two of our other friends, I mean, we just like
Yes.
laughed about this because it is like, okay, think of a peacock, right? They flaunt their feathers.
Yeah.
They are like bold and colorful and like, I mean, that is how I want you to feel like going about your fertility path. It's like, let's
Yes.
live full out. Let's shine our light. Let's exude these colors and like be playful and have fun. I mean, there's something there I'm going to lead with. Like,
Yeah, I feel like we need to have like some peacock like brought into
yes,
some of
yes,
your
but
work,
it's
because it is
true.
true.
Like,
We're
we're not
like, let's
shrinking. We're not here
flaunt
to
our colors and like
flaunt
be
your
big and
feathers.
bold. Yeah.
So
I love it.
I'm gonna leave it with that. But just everyone go out and take
Flaunt your
take our
feathers.
advice. I love
Oh,
you.
I
Thank you so
love
much
it.
for this
I love
conversation.
you,
You're
Lisa. Thank you
amazing.
so much. This was so fun. And good luck to everyone out there. This was
Oh,
amazing.
love you.
Thanks, Lisa.